Dear Mr. Inchul Kim, President of Hankook University, Yonggung Kim, President of NIIED, Jean Park, Member of 21st National Assembly, Doug Kang, Member of 21st National Assembly, Chongjin Oh, Director, Hoof Center for Critical Foreign Languages Education, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Being here at Hoofs University and together with all the staff of the Polish language department, I think that the question of learning foreign languages speaks for itself. When the Polish language department was set up in 1987 by Professor Chong-byuk Kwon, the global requirement for all of us students, professors, etc., was English. As well in Europe, where there were only a very few people who could speak any Asian or African language and just learn them for fun. Let me stop for a while and think about the decision made up in 1987 on studying and learning Polish language here at Hoofs. Here in Korea, the country, Poland, did not even have diplomatic relations at that time. Risk? Undoubtedly. Polish is rare, and needless to say, difficult. Passion? No doubts at all. But, and that should be emphasized as well, anticipation of global trends. And the reality gave a very quick answer. Poland set up diplomatic relations with Korea on November 1st, 1989, just only 2 years after. I do not personally know how it is to teach Polish language Korean students, since both languages are rare, plenty of exceptions, and with very sophisticated grammar. But on the other hand, this has always been one of the greatest challenges for both professors and students. The results, outstanding. How it was possible? Of course, perfect program of studies, but, and we must remember about it, devotion and self-perfection. Professor, tutor, or teacher cooperates with the students, but the student must learn and study himself as well, and probably more. This is the key to success of a Polish language department at Hoofs University. Language is a code, specific tool of communication which always evolves, mainly from the bottom, not from the top. Anyway, no matter how to treat it, the transmission should be based on information, which means you can speak 100 of languages, but always remember you have to have something to say. Language is an ambassador of a country. Language is a culture. Language is a tool. And finally speaking, foreign language means, to quote Johann Wolfgang Goethe, as many languages you know, so many times you're a human being. And as usual, he was not wrong. Therefore, when looking at the Polish language department faculty, Professor Chon Sung-un, Professor Kim Yong-dong, Professor Kim Jong-sung, and Professor Haiduk Gavron, I should ask myself how many people really I do see. And 960 graduates and 151 currently studying, very impressive numbers. Good teaching is to climb from level to level, and finally, to teach students not only to speak, but to think in foreign language, and if I may say so, to dream in it. As I mentioned before, Polish is not easy, but very much the same might be said about the Korean language. Very important is an interaction between both languages. Polish has become more and more popular in Korea, but Korean in Poland as well. Students' exchange programs are not only inscribed within institutional framework. Brushing up the language and making new friendships paves the way toward different life, more colorful and more interesting, with wider horizons and opportunities for the future. But look at it from a very practical point of view. Since Poland attracts so many Korean investors, it paves the way for Polish-speaking Korean interpreters who might assist their Korean superiors in their daily duties. On the other hand, one of the biggest satisfaction gives the translation of literature. This is the most wonderful trip in the heart of the language and culture. George Kennan, the American policymaker, said that if you really want to know the mentality of the nation, you have to read its literature. In 2018 at HOOFS, there was a meeting of 4 Polish language departments from Korea, Japan, China, and Vietnam. The keynote speakers were professors who translated Lalka, the doll, which was written by our writer Bolesław Prus. And all of them read its first passage in their mother tongues. It was not a competition, but a wide spectrum how to translate and understand the text and its spirit, and even times it was written in. On the other hand, I should mention Korean language in Poland. Obviously, Korean language departments can be found in the biggest universities in Warsaw, Kraków, or Poznań. What makes Korean so popular? Quite the same expectations. I think, like in the case of learning Polish language. However, my language absorbs more and more Korean words like kimchi or K-pop. Since kimchi cannot be translated literally as a pickled cabbage, it got into a language as it stands for itself. Everybody knows that what is kimchi without additional explanations. K-pop is a style, but the letter K is recognizable as Korean and pop as pop culture. Hardly anyone probably can associate the word pop culture with Andy Warhol. Here is a very good example how languages affect each other. Finally, when looking at the faculty members of the Polish language department here at HOOFS University, I cannot resist the impression that this is the beating heart of Poland, of my country. Thank you very much.